Ant-Man and the Wasp was directed by Peyton Reed, who also directed the first Ant-Man film and stars Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Michael Pena, Walton Goggins, Hannah John Kamen, with Michelle Pfeiffer, Lawrence Fishburne, and Michael Douglas as Dr. Hank Pym. After the events of Captain America Civil War, Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd, is under house arrest, which doesn't stop Hope Van Dyne, played by Evangeline Lilly, and her father Hank from recruiting him to help their search into the quantum realm for Hope's long-lost mother Janet Van Dyne, played by Michelle Pfeiffer. The first Ant-Man in 2015 still remains, in my opinion, one of the MCU's best. It might not crack the top 10, but I think that it holds up a lot more than a fair few of their other films. It proved to be a really nice change of pace after the cataclysmic events of Avengers Age of Ultron in that same year, and Ant-Man and the Wasp is kind of the same thing. It's coming out after Avengers Infinity War, so it has those same kind of lower stakes, but it feels a little bit less. What I do love about this movie is most of the performances. Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly are just great as Ant-Man and the Wasp, especially Evangeline Lilly. She gets so much more to do, and I'm really thankful for that because she is a great presence, and they have really good chemistry with each other, even though I wanted a lot more action sequences with them both participating in them. Most of the action sequences is just Ant-Man doing his thing, and then the Wasp doing her thing, and then they meet up with each other at the end. I wanted a little bit more of them working together, and I feel like their characters don't really evolve too much. The first movie really taught them a lot of lessons of how to work together, how to, go through certain situations. Here it's more like, we know what we're doing, we're going to succeed, and well, that's about it. It is really, really cool to see actors like Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Lawrence Fishburne all in this kind of movie. Michael Pena, he still steals this movie completely, just like he did with the first Ant-Man.
The story of Ant-Man and the Wasp, as told by Luis.
I first met Scotty in Cell Block D, and I was like, I'm Luis. And he says, I'm Scotty, and we're gonna be best friends. Scotty gets out of jail, and that's when he met Hope. Look at my hairdo, I'm all business. But then Scotty's like, I'm gonna go trash in the airport with Captain America.
Cap needed help, so...
Captain America. And then she said, he's gonna screw up again and ruin everything.
I like Scott Lang's family, especially Abby Ryder-Forster, who plays Cassie Lang. She is just so bright and so lovely. I cannot wait to see if they're going to go a little bit further with her character like they do in the comics. And the villains of the movie are pretty good, I guess. Sure, Ghost is not going to compare well against the likes of Thanos or Eric Killmonger. They're two of the best MCU villains that we've ever had. But I do think that they do a few interesting things with the character of Ghost. There are some sequences in Ant-Man and the Wasp that are really, really fun, genuinely hilarious. There's one scene that involves having to shrink down to hide in this school setting that is just so good, even though it kind of plays fast and loose with the established logic of how the shrinking technology is meant to work and when you're meant to wear your suit, but that's just nitpicks. There's a lot of really, really cool visuals. The quantum realm still is a standout, and Christoph Beck's score is still just as great as it was in the first movie. But where I think that Ant-Man and the Wasp is a bit of a step down is a lot of the character work, a lot of the scripting issues. Some of the dialogue just doesn't really feel as fresh. A lot of the scenes have these, constant gags, and they'll just cut to these certain kind of jokes, or I even have whole subplots dedicated to one specific joke. But I don't think that all the jokes are that funny. A lot of the characters don't really go anywhere. They just act as joke and plot machines, which is a problem that Marvel can run into with their previous films. And Dante Spanotti's cinematography is okay, but Russell Carpenter's work on the first movie was kind of exceptional, especially how he used aspect ratio, making the aspect ratio a lot larger, so that way when you're in Scott Lang's perspective as he's shrinking down when he's in the Ant-Man suit, everything feels a lot bigger, and it really works in those areas. But here, it's just the standard 2:39 aspect ratio, and yeah, that's okay, but I thought that they would have a little bit more consistency when it comes to how these movies would look. This movie feels a little forgettable, like a lot of other Phase 1 Marvel movies. It's generally enjoyable. There's a lot of really funny gags, some really nice performances, but I think I was expecting a little bit more. The first Ant-Man gave me a lot of very interesting ways forward for what superhero movies can do, how they can work in specific genres, like a comedy heist movie. But here, it just feels like a straight comedy movie that features some superhero stuff. I don't think Janet Van Dyne was used all that well. I really wanted a lot more of her character, a lot more of the quantum realm. I wanted this movie to get way weirder because that's where the comics go. It is a good Marvel movie, and I'll say that Ant-Man and the Wasp is...
Sorry, Marge. I'm afraid this gets my lowest rating ever. 7 thumbs up.
So Ant-Man and the Wasp, have you seen it? What do you think about it? What do you think about this review? Let me know in the comments below. If you want my spoiler thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp, stay tuned in the description below to a link to the Spoiler Nation podcast that I'm going to be appearing on the next episode of. It's hosted by 2 of my favorite people in the world. I cannot wait to do that, so stay tuned for that. If you want more Mr. Movies, click my channel link coming up in the center of the screen right now, and thanks for watching.